Republicans claim the administration is sending mixed signals on how it views those who seek asylum in this country at the border versus those who might be seeking asylum in this country from Cuba and Haiti. Dead set against telling them not in either country to try to come to this country or get into boats to try to come emigrate to the United States. But very different policies at the border that have Senator Steve Daines confused. The Montana Republican senator sits on the Finance Committee, Energy Committee, kind enough to join us now. Senator, it's a very good point that we are potentially sending mixed signals. What do you think the White House is saying here?
Well, from what we're hearing from the president, it looks like President Biden wants open border policies for everybody except the Cuban people. And perhaps that makes sense, Neil, because President Biden wouldn't want people to come into our country who might give testimony to the failures of socialism and contradict President Biden's far-left agenda. But those images from the southern border are just shocking. And Neil, just yesterday, I was in Billings, Montana, having a briefing with our law enforcement there, chief of police, county sheriff. What's not talked about enough on the southern border is the fact the illegal drugs are coming across, the heroin, the fentanyl, the methamphetamines. We're going to see a record level of homicides in Billings, Montana this year. We are a northern border state with a southern border crisis, and is directly tied to Mexican cartel meth. About 80% of our felonies and violent crimes are tied to drugs. Those drugs are coming in from Mexico. So he is sending a contradicting message, the president. Wide open border on the south. He's telling the Cuban people, you're not allowed to come to the United States.
You know, the argument was that he was looking at their safety as well as the safety of American exiles or Cuban exiles in Florida, trying to make the trip south to provide supplies, food, even a means for Cubans to come to the United States, that it's dangerous. So don't do it. But he did criticize communism as a failed philosophy and Cuba as a failed state, but you want him to act on that, right? What specifically regarding Cuba would you like to see him do?
Well, this notion, the president saying that the truck across the water for Cubans is dangerous, and I would agree that is true, but the truck across the Mexican desert for these Northern Triangle refugees that are coming out of Central America, it's equally dangerous, especially with the high temperatures. And as you know, Neil, many of those folks are families with small children. So that isn't a consistent argument. There is a process to be followed for seeking asylum. And whether you are a Cuban or whether you are somebody from a Northern Triangle country, follow the process. The problem we have in the southern border is President Biden has revoked the policies that President Trump put in place that said if you claim asylum, you've got to remain in Mexico until it's adjudicated. That's common sense. And the contrast there is when President Biden suspended President Trump's policies, as your reporter earlier stated, we're going to see perhaps a record level of illegal crossings in this country. The month of June was the highest number in 21 years.
You know, while I have you, on that subject, Senator, the president has promised that the Justice Department will appeal what he calls a deeply disappointing ruling by a federal judge in Texas on this program that protects certain immigrants brought into the U.S. And that he'll address what this judge forgot. Where are you on this, and what does it mean to the children of illegals who grew up in this country and now see it as their country?
Yeah, well, there's a path forward here, Neil, with Republicans and Democrats working together to define a path to citizenship that follows established paths and processes that many, many Americans now went through that process, who once were not citizens and now are citizens. But we are not going to go down a path of granting amnesty. There is a path, a process that millions have gone through who are now American citizens. We should follow the same process. That's a solvable problem. And I think we could find a bipartisan solution, hopefully, that would follow the rule of law and established processes.
Senator, while I have you, obviously Chuck Schumer wants to begin at least debate voting on this $3.5 trillion so-called human infrastructure program. Apart from that is the roughly $1 trillion real infrastructure program, infrastructure only. Are you a yes vote on that, on the roughly $1 trillion plan that does seem to have bipartisan support, not necessarily this $3.5 trillion one that clearly does not?
Yeah, well, first of all, we've got to see the pay for it, Neil. How are you going to pay for it? We are $30 trillion in debt. So we're waiting to get clarity on what the pay fors are for the additional spending. We're also want to see what the CBO says about it. So that's going to come out here soon. But Neil, I just have to make a comment on that $3.5 trillion social infrastructure package. Neil, this is massive. This would be the largest spending bill passed over and above budgets in the history of our country. This is a massive spending bill. It's a massive tax increase. It is a lurch to the left like we've never seen before. Neil, it ought to be very concerning to every American what's going on. And by the way, it just takes one Democrat senator, one, because every Republican is going to be opposed to it. We can get one Democrat senator to hopefully bring some common sense and stop this. That's what we are hoping for. But Republicans are completely left out of this negotiation on this $3.5 trillion massive Democrat spending package.
All right, on the tax increase, what were you referring to? The fact that he wants to stick taxes on the well-to-do, or are you talking about the inflation that could come as a result of it? That is a tax on the American people.
Yeah. Inflation is a tax increase for everybody. It just starts to shrink the paycheck. But the tax rate I'm specifically talking about here truly is they're looking to raise capital gains taxes, Neil, to levels higher than any OECD country in the world when you add the state component of that. Doubling capital gains, massive increase in the death tax, as well as raising taxes on businesses, a corporate tax rate, which again, if anybody's cheering right now, Neil, it's the Chinese. If we want to continue to be competitive to beat China, we need to stick to President Trump's and the Republican tax package we passed back in 2017. That incentivizes growth and incentivizes keeping jobs in America.
All right, the battle is on. Senator Daines, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Senator Steve Daines of Montana will be following that back and forth on these various spending packages.